Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, fellow Toastmasters around the world. Surprise! We are back. We were
Yay.
gone for several weeks, but we are back. And who else to do the presentation for the relaunch than one of our favorite presenters, Trish Blackwelder from District 3. She is the District 3 Pathways chair. She leads the help desk, and that means she has a plethora of very helpful materials. And for those who are
You want to
regulars
go
on
watch the other
this
one on mine? Or you?
day, docs and tips, we have had her several times in the past. Later on during the session, I will share a link to all of the previous YouTube videos that we have. Tonight or today's episode is going to focus on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What now? It's the end of the traditional program, the retirement, or as we like to call it, the sunset. So Trish will lead us tonight in that conversation. How ready are we or not? Let's welcome Trish.
Yay! Oh, this is so good. And I was all set. And my Zoom window disappeared to share my screen. There we
And
go.
while
There it
Trish is doing that, let me mention she has completed 2 paths: visionary communication and presentation mastery. There. Perfect timing.
Technology, you have to love it or you have to hate it. What can I tell you? If there's a challenge out there, it's going to find it for me. So welcome, everyone. What day is today? February 4th. And in just 4 short months, the traditional program will be sunset forever. We will have the only official education program, Pathways. And we've had various lengths of time for all the districts to get used to being involved with Pathways. But with only 4 short months to go, we thought it might be appropriate to talk about, do you have your checklist ready for when the traditional program retires in June? So I have put together my countdown to sunset, or my checklist for Pathways readiness, however you prefer to look at it. We're going to go over some of the basic things that I have learned and treasure now, being the Pathways Committee Chair for the last 2 years here in District 3 in Arizona. We have tried a variety of ways in mentoring and orienting club officers and clubs to Pathways. So my presentation tonight will include the best practices that we have been putting together over the course of that time frame. Just a quick question for everyone that's here. Are you here for a personal club, or are you here as a district leader? If you're here as a district leader, please raise your hand in the window. Okay, and if you're here for your own personal clubs, raise your hand in the window. Okay, very good. All right, then I'll speak more towards the personal club perspective on these things. Let's go ahead though with a technical problem. This is so frustrating. Okay. There we go. Now the buttons are working. There was recently an announcement sent out to all district leaders, club growth directors, division and area directors, and club vice presidents of education. This is a major update from World Headquarters. Over my time as the Pathways Chair, I've received several questions around how this is all going to work, for club coaches, club officers, and district officers who are looking to get those leadership roles credits to finish their legacy DTM or other legacy educational award. So this is the latest and greatest from World Headquarters. If you were not on the distribution for this, check with your club vice president of education or your area or division director who can get you a copy of this. But you'll see I've highlighted some things in the notification. Starting June 1st of 2020, World Headquarters will begin processing leadership applications for members with leadership and club coach roles that are in progress until the end of 2019 through 2020. They're going to make an assumption that that the award will be credited, but there will still be a verification process. So in the instance of a club coach appointment, they will go through the verification process as soon as the club has met distinguished status or higher, even if that's prior to the submission of the application. It's another good reason to encourage all of your clubs to qualify for distinguished status as of April 1st, which would be the first opportunity that they would have to do that. Members who meet their qualifications will be treated as if they have completed a leadership role on June 1st of 2020. And there's directions, specific directions on how you get this information to World Headquarters. It is not an online submission. It must be done through either fax or email. So again, make sure that you get a copy of this update from your club vice president of education or your area or division directors would be the easiest options for you. Any comments around this update? Michelle, I don't have an unmute or mute button, so I'm hoping you're managing that.
Yep.
Okay, not hearing anything, then let's move on. As the Pathways Committee Chair and as a longtime trainer here in District 3, I hear lots of things about the Competent Leader Manual. Oh, how are we going to survive without the Competent Leader Manual? The Competent Leader Manual ensures that all of our members will actually sign up for roles in the club. And I have to snicker every time I hear that because I've been a Toastmaster long enough to remember before we had the Competent Leader Manual. And it wasn't a huge problem getting members to sign up for roles. My personal opinion is that has to do with the expectations we set when we bring in the new members. So this slide very much reflects my opinion. Dr. Smedley was so adamant about putting together the Toastmasters Promise. And if the Toastmasters Promise is core to your member induction, it answers and solves for a lot of those participation challenges that I hear clubs having problems with. Life as a member before the Competent Leader was all about getting new members to understand that there was a Toastmasters Promise. When they signed the membership application, they agreed to abide by the Toastmasters Promise. And you'll see as you look through it on the left side of the screen that it accomplishes many of the things that clubs are telling me they're challenged with. Getting members to attend regularly, getting members to prepare for their roles, getting them to sign up and fulfill roles in the club, giving fellow members constructive and helpful evaluations. This actually became a coaching point in a club that Nancy and I were coaching when one of the members of the clubs refused to give evaluations. And we kind of, what? But what we did as part of a reinduction with all the members in the club was go back through the Toastmasters promise. And right there, it said, you will provide fellow members with helpful and constructive evaluations. So opting out of the evaluation program is not an option. If we don't have the Competent Leader Manual anymore, I remember there was a lot of uproar when it was first released that nobody liked the Competent Leader Manual. And we went through all of the gyrations to help people learn how to use it. Now that we aren't going to have the Competent Leader Manual anymore, everybody's complaining because we won't have it anymore. So I don't know that we could ever satisfy everybody 100%. You didn't like it when you first got it, now you can't live without it. But again, my point here is when you establish good expectations with your new members, you shouldn't have to over rely on the Competent Leader Manual to get members to participate. So my recommendation here for everyone on the call is to re-induct all your members and recite the Toastmasters promise as part of the induction ceremony and level set everyone on the expectations involved with being a member. And I think that you will find that that will help many of the critical conversations that you need to have to get members to be the best performing or the best engaged members that they can be. Anyone have anything that they want to share here? I open myself up. Remember, I wear the target, so I open myself up if there's any comments here.
Well, this one is an amen kind of comment. Amen.
So I just like to start here because this reinforces that so many people think that Pathways is a humongous change to our program, but there are so many things that are core to Toastmasters that have not changed, and the promise is one of them. All right, moving on then. We remain, again, something that has not changed. We remain a communication and leadership organization. How we talk about what we do as Toastmasters has not changed and should not change. Mentoring members should still have a focus on how they want to prioritize their development. I know in one of my other sessions that I've presented in this forum, I talked about asking a prospective member or a brand new member, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? Are you more focused on wanting to develop your communication skills or your leadership skills? And that is still very relevant to our Pathways education program. On the left, you'll see my redo of the cover page for the paths and core competencies. And this has been, I've had very good success using this version with prospects and new members, as well as club officers, and getting everyone to understand we're still a communication and leadership organization. Of the 5 core competencies, 2 of them are focused on communication, public speaking, and interpersonal communication. There are 2 more focused on leadership, be it strategic or managerial. To the right of the cover page is how those 4 core competencies weigh in with each of the 11 paths that are available in Pathways. So if I'm sitting across from a prospect and I'm talking to them and they tell me that communication is what they're here for, then I don't talk about the bottom of the sheet nearly as much as I talk about the top of the sheet. Engaging humor, presentation mastery are the 2 purest communication paths that we have in Pathways. There is not a single leadership project in either of those 2 paths. So for someone who wants to focus entirely on communication skills, those are the paths that we should guide them towards. Dynamic leadership, motivational strategy, strategic relationships, effective coaching, and leadership development will all have communication as a focus, but they will be strongly supported by leadership as well in the electives and some of the required projects. But if somebody tells me that they're here because they want to get a promotion at work and they've been told that their leadership skills are what aren't as polished as they need to be, then let's get them into the leadership side of our program. Assuming that would be something like managerial leadership, then let's go for those paths that are strongest in managerial leadership, which would be the ones that carry the four: innovative planning and team collaboration. So again, this one sheet can be so helpful when you're talking to both prospects and new members about what paths are best for them and where they should consider starting their pathways journey. No longer will we start everyone with the same manual, but we will start everyone with the same first projects in level 1, which we'll get to in just a moment. The idea in pathways, though, is after you get through level 1, you need to get into the skills that you're here to learn as quickly as possible. And so let's get everybody on the right path as soon as possible by making sure we guide them towards the ones that they're most focused on: communication or leadership. Any questions here? Okay. Another big thing to make sure that you are well versed in pathways is member access and path selection. It's important that you can guide and coach someone through getting their profile set up and their password established. Now, this is not entirely new. Anytime we register for someplace online these days for any kind of an account, we will have to set up a username and password. And it will be the same now with Toastmasters. You will go online, you will have a default member ID with your email address that you used on your membership application, and then you will be prompted to go through establishing your password. Once you have your username and password in place, then you log into Toastmasters International and you can access everything from your learning program to maintaining your profile to moving into the navigator and understanding more about the benefits available to you from Toastmasters. Once you can log in, then your first place to land is on your profile page, but the profile page is so beefed up now because the profile page is where you launch to wherever you need to go now in the Toastmasters environment. So I didn't share all my personal information with you, but you're seeing my personal profile page. And from here, I can launch into Basecamp and go start learning. I can pick another path. I can view the navigator. And if you look right across from where it says I'm enrolled in 6 paths, you'll see that I can also go directly to my transcript. So there really is a streamlined welcome email and password creation process now for new members. And also, new members are onboarded step by step through their first login. And there's a video for that. But remember that you will have 3 options now for choosing your first path. The presentation mastery is the default choice. You can view all the paths and select from a list, or you can take the assessment and select based on recommendations. All of this will be part of that new onboarding process that takes a member through the login page, establishing their password, getting into their profile, and then selecting their first path. Okay, let me pause here again. Any hands? No hands?
Well, Trish, I want to say I am so glad we're having this session. I did not know that this improvement has been put in. This is great having those options to initially choose presentation mastery, because a lot of people really came to Toastmasters for improving their communication
Mhm.
skills. And then that second option, and then finally the third. I didn't know that. So I
The,
thank you.
the last metrics that I got were that presentation mastery remains the most popular choice of all the paths. And I think that is inherent to the history of Toastmasters, where most people do arrive here primarily to improve their communication skills. So it's a natural choice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, we have more people than I can see in one glance. So let me see if anybody wants to have a question. I see Oladeli. Oh no, it's not Oladeli. It's Orabelli. There's two of you with similar names. You can unmute yourself. I know you usually have questions. Dennis, I know you usually have questions. Go ahead if you have a question, because I can't see all of you. So just unmute yourself. Because if you're raising your hand, I might be missing that. There, oh no, I thought he unmuted himself. Mhm. So I am not seeing anyone unmuting. You're so clear, Trish. Maybe that's why there are no questions.
Okay, we'll move on. All right. So I talk in terms now of the 3 P's: password, profile, and point of entry. Again, just to recap, only one login is now required. You no longer have to log in to Basecamp or to Toastmasters. You simply log in one location. You get access to your password profile maintenance, your Basecamp entry, your path selections, and your navigator, which explains the benefits of Toastmasters. And I have to pick on Nancy a little bit. Nancy has coached me for years about web development, where if it takes more than 3 clicks, it's no good. You have to be able to get there in 3 clicks. And so Toastmasters has followed suit. You now get to your learning within 3 clicks. Log in, profile, and go directly to Transcript. So, Nancy, if you had anything to do with that, kudos to you. Okay. Assuming that the path is to go in and I want to get some learning done today, let's go ahead and move on to the Basecamp Education Transcript. I have 2 samples of my transcripts. Engaging humor is at the top, leadership development is on the bottom. But remember that it's the educational transcript area where all your learning begins. This is where your progress will get measured on the dashboard that you're seeing. The summary dashboard is what you're looking at right now. And the best part that I appreciate about this is that now within your educational transcript, your Basecamp area, you get 24/7 help, because it's always available to you through the I can't talk, tutorials and resources. I've never had problems with that word before. Tutorials and resources, which is right here on the menu selection. Um, maybe maybe you're not all night owls, but I am, and I used to spend a lot of time on the website, or on websites, doing research and learning things between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. So I appreciate having 24/7 help, and I especially appreciate it when it's self-help. I can look for what I want and listen to as much or as little of it as I need. And then this page is also where your completion approval requests to your Basecamp managers will be initiated from. So the reason I gave you these 2 images is because if you're a brand new member, this is what your first page or your first time onto this dashboard will look like. You're going to have activate buttons. And then for the existing members who have been into their paths and know now that we can go in and activate anything across all 5 levels, you'll be activating and turning those into launch buttons. Remember that even as an existing member, if you're going to work ahead in level 3, 4, or 5, there's nothing to prevent you from doing that anymore. However, when it comes to submitting for educational awards, you must still submit in sequential order. Level 1 first, then level 2, followed by 3, 4, and 5. You cannot submit level educational awards out of sequence. Okay? All right. Now I mentioned I did a teaser earlier about level 1 fundamentals. When I first started coaching pathways here in District 3, I heard a lot of the chatter, a lot of the comments about, oh, it's so confusing. There's so many levels and I don't know. And, and I have to learn everything all over again. Not really. You need to learn level 1. Level 1 will ask you to do everything that Basecamp will ever ask you to do as a Toastmaster. If once a member has, and again, if we're coaching new members and you think about coaching them through level 1 now instead of just through the first 3 speeches, you will have coached them on everything that they'll be expected to do on their own as they continue their learning journey through pathways. So let's review what those basics are. You have to learn how to activate projects and activate levels, okay? You see that in the examples that I have on the right-hand side. Yeah, the left-hand side of the page. My right, your left, okay? They will need to know that once it's activated, then you use the maroon button to launch things. This will launch learning modules, and it now launches everything into a new window. So if they, depending on what browser they're working with, they may get another tab at the top of the window. They may get a whole second window. That's where you'll need to be a little experienced then in how different browsers open new windows. But no longer will everything be buried behind in one window where members were getting lost then and they couldn't find their way back to their transcript or back to the start page. So activate and launch are key. They need to know that once they've launched, how to interact. And remember, there are 2 ways to navigate. You have the chevrons on either side of a page, and down at the bottom of the page, you have the start menu with the pop-up options. I personally like the start menu because I can jump to wherever I need to go. If I need to print my evaluation form, I can jump right to the evaluation option and print my evaluation form. If I'm confused about the objectives, I can jump back to the objectives again and read those again. If I'm looking for a particular resource, I can find it faster. When I'm ready to do my pre and post assessments, I can jump to those pages. So again, there are advantages both ways, but the start menu at the bottom is the one that gives you the most freedom in how you navigate through the module. The chevrons are great when you're just starting at the beginning of your learning content and moving straight through to the end. Make sure that you are familiarizing your new members with both navigation options. The assessment. Some people don't want to complete assessments. Oh, why do I have to stop and do another assessment again? But assessments drive the progress bars in pathways in the learning modules. So you must go through and record answers for the pre-assessment that you do before you start learning and the post-assessment that you do once you have finished your learning and given your final speech. Without having done both of those assessments and recording your results in the system, you will not be able to get the project to mark itself complete. And that was a big stumbling block for a lot of new members when we were first deployed. They didn't realize that even though they'd gone through all the content, if they skipped those 2 surveys on those assessments, that they wouldn't be able to mark the project complete. So don't skip them. It's also important that once they have gone through all the learning module, that they know that they're going to submit for level completions only. Again, one of the upsides of Pathways Learning is that I control my own destiny. I can move through my projects as quickly as I want to, but I cannot get my level marked complete without a Basecamp manager approval. So when I'm ready to be done with my level, be it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, I must know how to do the submission that will send the request for approval to my Basecamp manager so that they can do the approval, and the level will finally be marked complete. And then once it is marked complete, it's where you'll also be notified now that it is complete, and you'll get your you'll have access to your certificate of completion. And that happens once the Basecamp manager has approved that you have completed the level. They have marked it, it will send back to the system to mark it complete, and it'll be ready for submission through Club Central for Distinguished Club Program and educational credit. Remember, it's important that everybody understands it's a two-step process. Basecamp managers must mark the level complete in Basecamp, and then an officer must submit through Club Central that the level has been completed, just like we submitted the legacy or the traditional educational awards, so that the Distinguished Club Program credits can be awarded to the club, and the recognition can be awarded to the member. That's it. Those are the things that will continue to take you through pathways. So once you have learned them in level 1, you continue that process and repeat until the entire path is complete. And guess what? Then you get to do it again with a new path. So level 1 really is a lot about fundamentals, not only in skills, but in learning how to navigate through your Basecamp and your educational environment. Okay. All right. Let's talk evaluation. Evaluation is different with pathways. For those of you who remember the traditional program, let's use the Competent Communicator Manual as an example. I did my icebreaker, I had an icebreaker evaluation. I did organize my speech, I had an organize evaluation. I did vocal variety, I had a vocal variety evaluation. I did gestures, or body language, I had a body language evaluation. And even though I did all 10 of those projects, it wasn't until I got to the 10th project that some of those other skills that I had done leading up to that were included in my evaluation again. And as I moved on into advanced manuals then, I was probably never again evaluated on vocal variety or body language or organization. And I don't think I realized how challenging that was until Pathways was introduced. Because what Pathways has done is brought a standard to evaluation. Think about the new members that, oh no, they don't want to be an evaluator. That's too much for them to take on. Because they're scared, they don't know what to look for or how to provide feedback. Pathways has solved for that. What you're looking at on the left-hand side of your screen is the new evaluation criteria. Again, in a previous session that I've done here, I've spoken about the evaluation form and how my light bulb went off one day that the Pathways evaluations have 8 standard criteria that regardless of the speech project, every member is going to continue to be evaluated on core successful speaking skills. These 8: clarity, vocal variety, eye contact, gestures, audience awareness, comfort level, interest, and then applying feedback in this particular case. But these 8, they will continually come up with every evaluation. And as such, I continue to get evaluated as a speaker on the core skills that make me successful as a speaker. When I have a project that is specific to a skill, I will have 1 or 2 more categories on my evaluation form for the evaluator to respond with. And that's how I will always receive feedback on both my core skills as a speaker, as well as the special objective skills of the project. I was doing an orientation session for a club where I was talking about the evaluation form, and there was a prospective member in the audience, and I asked her if I could ask a question, and she said yes. And I said, how comfortable at this point do you feel about hearing a speaker speak and using this scoring sheet to mark how well you think they did in each of the areas? And she goes, I can do that. And that was when everybody else's light bulbs went off in the room. No longer will evaluation be as scary or as huge of a mountain as it's been all these years. I remember it took me forever to feel like I could give a decent evaluation as a member, but Pathways has leveled the playing field. Anybody can look at this and say, well, was it an exemplary use of that skill, or is it does it have room for lots of improvement? The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 gives even a novice member the opportunity to see examples of what would be good, better, and best, and learn how to judge then, or how to scale the performance they've just seen by the speaker. So that was a big light bulb moment for me, that this was a huge shift for our organization, and it was incredibly smart and valuable for us to do. This alone is one of the huge reasons why I am a huge Pathways supporter, because evaluation will be much easier and we won't struggle so much in trying to teach someone evaluation. Our tools will help teach them for us. The other thing that occurred to me as I kept working with this is that I'd heard a lot of these things before, and contest season rolled around, and sure enough, I was looking at judging forms, and I realized that these criteria aligned with the international judging criteria for for our international speech contest. And again, light bulb moment that said, oh my gosh, not only are we level setting and helping teach evaluation to our members, we're teaching them the very criteria we use for declaring the world champion of public speaking. So now, from the day they start as a member till the day they eventually become a world champion, as an example, they will be using the same criteria through that entire journey. How smart is that? We don't learn one way to evaluate, then have to learn a different way to judge, and then learn a different way to judge for a different contest, and a different way to judge for a professional speaker versus a normal, typical project speech. It's going to be a consistent language from start to world champion. So evaluation to me is a huge success that was not ever part of the conversation when we were first deploying Pathways. And I think it was a huge miss on the deployments part, but we don't have to miss it anymore. Here it is, and it's all right there. If you go pull any evaluation form for any Pathways project for any path, you're going to see that standard criteria along with some 1 or 2 specialized skill things. And you can be consistent then at learning how to always evaluate the overall performance of a speaker, not just a specific skill, but a overall speaking skill. Okay, I'm not going to stop beating that one. I love it. Okay. All right. Beyond paths. We have 11 paths currently available to us in Pathways. Then we have the DTM project. It is not a path. It is still, though, the highest educational level that any member can achieve in Toastmasters. That part has not changed, but how you get there has. Now you won't have a path to complete, but you will lead a special project. And this special project is of your own choosing. But its objectives are designed to help you demonstrate your skills as a public speaker and leader that you have learned across the at least 2 paths that you have completed to get there. Your DTM project is something that you will request from Toastmasters International once you become eligible. And if you go out to Toastmasters International's website, you can find a whole section on the DTM and what it takes to become eligible for your DTM project. But I will clue you in, it does require a minimum of 2 full path completions. Okay. And then beyond your club, that has not changed either. Volunteer opportunities are going to continue to remain within our organization to help provide valuable benefits to members. I look back on my history through Toastmasters as how I became the professional in my skills at work that I am today. And I'll just give you an example. I joined Toastmasters because the president of the company always stepped onto the elevator and rode down to the lobby at lunchtime with me, and he wanted to chit-chat. I did not know how to chit-chat. I went to my first Toastmasters meeting and saw table topics in action. I leaned over to the person who had invited me and I said, "Where do I sign up? This is what I need." From learning how to handle table topics, I managed to do a better job with those interactions with the president of the company. When it came time that they wanted to branch off with a new division, I got into a good position with then the executive of that new division, who realized that I had a lot of good skills, but I needed a lot of polishing still. My Toastmasters membership is how I got that polishing. And again, Nancy's here tonight, so I'm going to call her out. I remember early on, after I had met Nancy, that I said, "How do you survive in corporate America? Because that's what I need to learn to do." Nancy was very good, frustrating for me then, not now, but very good at the time of telling me I wasn't ready for something yet. I wasn't ready for something yet. And she would point me in a different direction. I served in just about every committee in the district before I ever led one. I served in a lot of roles to understand how things work behind the scenes so that when I stepped up into a district leadership role, I was a lot better prepared for it. Nancy polished me on the networking skills that I lacked and helped me become much better at them. And within the first 3 years of being a Toastmaster, I had learned enough that I was able to walk away from my job, get myself a new job, sell myself differently on my interview so that I was better positioned for a better salary. And within 3 years, I had not only gotten into a career that had a future in it, I had tripled my salary. If you wonder why I'm still a Toastmaster today, it's because of that first 3 years of experience. I learned so much. Yet we don't talk about district leadership that way. We talk about, oh, we have an opening, we need an area director. Oh, we have an opening, we need this. Oh, we need someone to run a committee here. You want to volunteer, you do that. That is not how we train up leaders. When your district has a good farming system and everybody is finding the skills people need and then finding the right opportunities for them and putting them in that direction, we will do a lot better job of not only raising up future leaders in our district, but giving people the practical learning labs that they need to go be successful in their life outside of Toastmasters as well. Thank you for my soapbox time. Never discount the opportunities that we provide people in this organization, but we need to do a better job of presenting those opportunities to them so they see them as valuable as we do, even if that means telling them they're not ready yet. All right, my last hint for tonight is develop a progress tracker for yourself. If you are an officer, especially a vice president of education, bear in mind that until the legacy program can officially retire on June 30th, and the path we cannot see the pathways in Club Central systems ever having an interface. It's so important that we get to July 1st as best we can. I ran into some challenges just in the last couple of weeks in tracking some things and found that I couldn't just rely on Basecamp transcripts or meeting agendas, to help me. I really needed a bit more. I've developed this little tracker for myself. I'm putting it to use. I can't tell you that it's great or not great yet, but I have made it available in our District 3 Pathways online resource library if anybody else is interested in using it. It's important that you remember the dates that you approved levels and what levels were approved. And if you have dual members, that you know what other clubs are or what other Basecamp managers are approving their levels, and making sure that you're asking for proof of those things. Because if they are not logged in under your club, when you go to check a transcript, you won't be able to see their transcript. So there's a few little gotchas that I've learned, especially in the month of January, and I'm encouraging I'm going to continue to encourage all my club officers as well to make sure that they are doing some kind of a backup until we get to the point that Basecamp and Club Central can talk to one another. Okay, if you aren't using Free Toast Host, it can help you as long as you are in, and I have to use this word, enforcing that members enter their speech projects and what projects they're for, be it leadership, effective coaching, or leadership development, or whatever, because that history then will live in Free Toast Host. We've had some demonstrations in this forum of some of the other meeting trackers that are available out there. I unfortunately am not familiar with them, but we can certainly help point you in directions with people that are familiar with them. I can speak to Free Toast Host, but that's where my experience ends. If you have a great tracker that you're using, I would love to hear about it. So, please share back if you want to point me in the direction of something that's been an extremely useful tool for you, because again, I'm looking for a really good, easy to work with solution here that I can recommend to our club officers. Okay. And that kind of wraps it up for me. I'm going to entertain questions, answers, or any success stories that anybody wants to share. I'm also going to leave this screen up for just a moment so that you can see the resource list. But as is typical, Michelle does make the presentations available to you to download after we get the video and everything done and can do the posting. So let me hush, and Michelle, we can open it back up to the rest of the group.
Thank you. And would you like to unshare your screen so we can see each other if the people have their hands up? Your screen's still up.
Yes.
And
I'm looking for my stop share. There it is.
okay. I kind of figured, you always see when somebody is kind of looking around there. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Trish. As always, I know I've said this before, but I really mean it. Every session, I learn something new from you. And when it's Lori, same thing. I've been in Pathways since early 2017, but sometimes I don't keep abreast. And this latest development and all the stuff you shared, so informative. Before we open the floor to questions, I just wanted to add, or maybe to emphasize that now, ever since the levels were all opened, we now have a quote unquote sixth level, which is not actually a level.
That's
That
right.
is the complete your path. And I've seen on the Pathways forum how people are saying, well, I can't get to level 6. Well, no, it's not level 6. It is complete your path. Read the title. How can you get to it when you haven't completed levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? So that is still the only level, which is not really a level, that's the only thing that you cannot click on and you cannot open and you cannot do until you've done levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let's open the floor to questions or comments or clarifications. And Peggy, I see that you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just, because I'm really new to Pathways, and like my first time. So I'm just kind of getting the drift of what it is that Pathways is going to do for a Toastmasters group. Is this where we can come on our own individually rather than in a group form and do our Toastmasters protocol?
Trish, you
Um,
want to answer that?
Certainly. Peggy, if you think of it with the traditional program that you're familiar with, you had manuals before, and you would bring your manuals to the Toastmasters meeting, and you'd have speakers and you'd have functionaries. The meeting itself, the structure of the meeting itself has not changed because of Pathways, but instead of having paper manuals, your learning will be done online, and you will still prepare your speeches and present them at your meetings, and then bring your evaluation forms or provide your evaluations for your evaluators to complete online if your club wants to go that way. But nothing about the meeting structure really has changed because of Pathways. You'll still have speeches, Toastmaster, Topics Master, all of those things that you typically see, some of which will count towards project work in their learning modules.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Trish, if I may just add, because of an amazing coincidence that Peggy is actually in my division, and incredibly, I will be seeing her next week. Peggy, I offer you this very happy invitation to join me and bring Chad and the other founding members. We can do a Pathways overview, a Pathways
Mm-hmm.
orientation
Mhm.
in the flesh in Klamath Falls.
Okay, yeah. I'll talk to Chad about that too. That would be great. I think we need to explore all of our options that we have now, online
Okay.
or in
Or
real
print.
life. But
Mm-hmm.
because we are starting a new club, I think this will be a really good guideline for us to stay on track.
Wonderful. And I see there's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Swilly or Swiley. I think this is the first time that I've seen your name. Do you want to unmute yourself? Do you know how to unmute yourself? You have a question? Let me try in case you don't know how to unmute yourself. There, I've unmuted one of you. There's two of you. So, do you have a question or any? Are you a Toastmaster, first of all?
Oh, yes, I'm a DTM die
Oh,
times two.
oh,
Yay!
perfect. And I'm guessing, are you from the African continent or?
Oh, no, I'm from Georgia,
Oh,
District
okay.
44.
Yay!
Okay.
And
S-
no, I don't have any questions. This is my first time joining. I just wanted to keep up to date.
Wonderful. This is the right place. Thank you. So let me see. I think I asked Galaxy Tab what your name is, but I didn't capture it. Could you, let me see.
It's Robert Kerr.
Robert Kerr, yes. Do you have any
Yeah.
questions or comments, Robert?
I was impressed with the printout form of the evaluation for speeches, and it's so standardized, especially to introduce the newer members to the evaluation process. Now, some of my clubs, I'm in two clubs, and one has the old standard strip form that's perforated,
Mm-hmm.
but you only have just a little bit of space to make any comments. And so this printout for evaluation from each level gives you a broader category. You got your numeric ratings, plus the first page is actually breaks down into your three categories of important areas to comment on. You can print that form out in multiples so that you can either distribute it as a speaker to everybody in the club, for evaluations rather than have all these little slips of paper with you. And or you could have your somebody in the club that could run off multiple copies of the standard evaluation, and then it's passed out at the club meeting. So I like the new format for evaluations.
We do too, Robert. Here in District 3, one of the things that we've gotten some requests for is can a lot of the clubs that use the half-page sheets of, what I saw, what I heard, what I felt, have been looking for an alternative that is more pathways driven. And what we've developed here in District 3 is 2 per page of an 8.5 by 11, so it's half sheet each, that condenses the pathways scoring categories on it. So you don't have the full descriptions or the help on each of the numbers, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but it does say like clarity is language used is clear, easily understood, adds value, and then it scores from developing at 1 to exemplary on 5. Those sheets are available out in our District 3 online resource library under the tools for your club meetings if you want to take a look at them.
Okay.
And there's no password required for our library. It's open to everyone. And it's become somewhat popular as a result of these weekly sessions.
Yeah.
So we keep updating it. Mm-hmm.
And Trish, I know it's been a while, so after this session, when I post the recording on our Pathways Discussion Forum, please add those links again on just so people, because here in the chat, if we put it, only those that are attending live will get access. Those who will be watching the video won't have access to it.
Correct.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. This is always the time of these sessions when I glance at my timer and go, oh my gosh, we only have 3 minutes left. So, Trish, at this point, I cannot believe it, but it's that time. Do you have perhaps a parting message or maybe a summation of what you've discussed this hour?
Oh my goodness sakes. 4 months. 4 months. I know that we still have some diehards out there that are holding on to that traditional program as long as they possibly can. And trust me, as long as I've been a Toastmaster, I would not have accomplished most of what I've accomplished had it not been for that traditional program. But life is faster, the pace is faster. People want to learn quicker. They want to get to the point of what they're trying to learn too as well. And then and that's where Pathways will really come into play. That plus the phenomenal education improvement in the evaluation program and educating people on how to give good feedback are 2 really good reasons to get on board with Pathways. So with 4 months remaining, hurry up. Get into it, get familiar with it, because come July 1st, you need to be able to coach your new members in at least those critical skills that we covered tonight. And if there's anything that we can do to help, you know how to reach me.
Thank you again so much, Trish. And I have also added my email address on the chat with a request that if you have additional topics that you would like us to cover in these Tuesday Talks and Tips, please email them to me. I cannot guarantee that all the topics requested will be covered, but if we have multiple requests for a certain topic and we have a presenter who can handle that topic credibly, just like Trish did tonight or today or this morning, then we will make every effort to have that scheduled. So at this point, as I always do with Tuesday Talks and Tips, I thank everyone and encourage you to watch out for the video recording, which will be posted on the Pathways Discussion Forum. Thank you very much, and let's all give Trish a really big round of applause. Thank you so much, Trish. Thank you. At this point, I will now end the recording. However,